Hi everybody, welcome to the first movie for Summer Sketch Club. Today I want to tell you about a book that you can find at the library. It's called Flat Stanley. It's written by Jeff Brown and the pictures are by Scott Nash. I'm not going to read the whole book to you today, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happens. In this book there's a little boy named Stanley. One night while he was sleeping, his bulletin board on the wall fell down and squashed him. So when he woke up, he found that he was as flat as a piece of paper. So they measured Stanley 3 ways. They measured his height, his width, and his thickness. That means that Stanley was 3-dimensional since he could be measured 3 ways. Dimension comes from a word that means to measure. So when we talk about something that has dimension, it means it can be measured in different ways. If you've heard the term 3-dimensional, that means something that can be measured in 3 ways. Something that is 2-dimensional can be measured in 2 ways, and something that is 1-dimensional can only be measured in 1 way. Okay, so I'm going to draw something with my pencil, and then we're going to try to measure it with this ruler. And we'll try to figure out if it's 1-dimensional, or 2-dimensional, or 3-dimensional. Okay, look at this line that I drew. Let's see, so if I take my ruler, I can measure how long it is. It's 4 inches long. Can I really measure anything else about it? It's so thin that I can only measure it one way. I can only measure the length. So that line is 1-dimensional, since I can only measure it one way. I can't measure the width or the thickness very well. So it's just 1-dimensional. Now look at the rectangle I just drew. Let's figure out how many dimensions the rectangle has. So if I take my ruler, let's see, I can measure its width. Looks like its width is 2 inches. And I can measure its length. It looks like its length is 4 inches. So I was able to measure the width and the length. That's 2 things. So that means it's a 2-dimensional shape. A pencil can be just like a magic wand. Artists use pencils and other tools to draw something and make it look like it has a different amount of dimensions than it really does. When you know how to draw, you can make something that's really flat and 2-dimensional look like a 3-dimensional object that you could really hold and touch. Okay, so take a look at these 2 circles. They look exactly the same, but since I know how to draw, I can use my pencil to make one of them look 3-dimensional instead of 2-dimensional. Now the circles look very different. One of them looks flat, and the other one looks like a real ball that you could touch and bounce. The trick is that it's not a real ball you could touch and bounce. It's just a drawing. It's a flat drawing on a flat piece of paper. But I used my pencil to make it look like it was a sphere, a 3-dimensional shape, instead of a circle, a 2-dimensional shape. This technique is called shading. You've probably heard of it before. Some people think that to shade something just means to color it in. Sometimes that is the way that the word shade is used. So when I say shade, this is what you might be thinking of. You might think I mean to color something in, like this. Or like this. You can say that this circle is shaded lightly and this one is shaded dark. But does that make them look 3-dimensional? Take another look at this circle. what's the difference between all of these? Well, to make this one look three-dimensional, I shaded some parts light and some parts dark. But I had to know where to put the light spots and where to put the dark spots. Take a look at this basketball. How can you tell that it's round? If all the lights were off and it was completely dark, your eyes would not be able to tell that the basketball was round. The only reason your eyes can tell that the basketball is round is because there's a light shining on it. That light is what helps your eyes perceive dimension. So that means that the part of the basketball that is closest to the light looks the very lightest. The parts of the basketball that are farthest away from the light look really dark. And the parts that are kind of in between look kind of in between in their lightness. So light is one of the most important parts. So if you're a good artist, then when you shade something, you think about light. You think about where light might be touching that object. You shade the parts closest to the light, the very lightest, and the parts farthest away, the very darkest, and the parts kind of in the middle, well, sort of in the middle. So how can you shade something light in some places, dark in other places, and make it look real? Well, it all starts with pressure. That means how hard you push with your pencil. Have you ever colored really hard with your pencil? So hard that you broke the tip? You broke it because you were using so much pressure. You were pushing so hard. When you first start out trying to shade, you might do something like this. Does this circle look as realistic as the other one? Well, not really, because you have a big black stripe right here. Then all of a sudden you have these lighter places over here. The difference between these two circles is that with this one, I shaded it very gradually. So I gradually moved from the dark part up to the light part. That's generally what we need to do if we want to make something look realistic. So to practice learning how to shade gradually from dark to light or light to dark, it's best to just start with a pencil and a piece of paper and just go like this. See how over here I pushed really hard with my arm? I pushed down hard starting all the way from my shoulder. I had to use a lot of pressure to make this part so dark. Then when I came over here, I was pushing really lightly with my pencil. And I need to push somewhere in between to move gradually from the dark place over to the light places. I'd like for you to practice shading from dark to light at home. And then when you come to Summer Sketch Club, you're going to try shading an object. So be ready for that. When you learn how to shade like a real artist, you can create pieces of art that look something like this. This was made using charcoal, and it's all black and white, but the places that I drew very lightly became light, and the places where I pushed really hard were dark. And because I had a lot of practice, it turned out looking very realistic, just like a photograph. I know that you can be great artists too. It just takes practice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, our first class is Thursday, June 5th in the North Logan Library meeting room. You should have signed up for a time, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or 1 o'clock. So I'm excited to see you at our first Summer Sketch Club class. Also, remember to bring your $10 so that you can get your Summer Sketch Club t-shirt, as well as a practice kit to take home. And as always, come ready to take chances, make mistakes, and get messy.